Top of the morning to you, and here's your Chappy Corner thoughts on this weekend's readings. Because why not? I find it perfectly fitting that these are the readings that we have going into Lent, which is kind of a soul-searching time. Because we live in a culture that teaches us to run from things that bother us, or that teaches us to scream at them, or to separate ourselves completely from them, or to pretend they're not there, or so these are personal problems or frustrations that we have. We have a culture that says just tries to almost entertain us into obedience, entertain us into sometimes not asking the big questions, or to try to get us to not practice actually being able to communicate with each other, and to be able to detach from this idea of a culture that says, you got to be right all the time, and what's right for you, whatever it may be. But going past that to say that it's not about being right, it's about being love. And I think there's a lot of power in that. And we have in the gospel today, in the gospel reading, we have Jesus, this man with leprosy. And at that time, leprosy, if you had that, you were banished from wherever it is that you lived, and you would even have to have like a little bell that you would ring if anybody was coming near you to say, get away, get away, get away. And the thing about scripture is it's like taking a crystal and you put it in front of a light, and then it refracts all over the place. Scripture is that of boundless meaning. So you can say, well, what this passage might mean this, and someone says, oh yes, but I've also heard this, and then you can say, yeah, I see that too. It's a both and, as opposed to an either or, which is what our culture focuses on, is either or. But we are actually bound in this both and it's this paradox where it seems like it shouldn't make sense, but it's really weirdly the only thing that really actually does make sense, is being able to sit and look and learn from each other. And so anyway, the leper says to Jesus, I believe that if you choose, you can heal me. And then it says Jesus is moved with pity, and that actually, another translation is in anger almost. It's interesting. And pity, when you look at the translation from the Greek word, it's actually like this gut-wrenching feeling of the guts spilling sort of thing. Like, so he's moved to the point of this huge emotional reaction of showing how Jesus walks with us and feels our every single pain and every single sorrow and walks with us through it. And he says, I do choose. And I think that's huge. And like, that can also be kind of difficult. Well, when we're talking about healing, well, why is that Jesus or God chooses to heal one person over not another person over not another person? And I think we have to go beyond that way of thinking when we're looking at this gospel, because there is no clear answer for that. There isn't. But what I think it's saying is Jesus is saying, I do choose. It's to the point of moving to this gut of reaction of, because I love you so much, and I choose that every single day. And it's us and our angers and our hates and our frustrations that we build up around ourselves, that we can't hear Jesus say, I do choose to heal you. I love you always. And it's this all-embracing, all-encompassing, complete, compassionate love. And once you can believe in that and start to break down these barriers that we put around us, then we realize that Jesus is saying, I do choose to heal you. And it's going to look different for each and every person. And it's not necessarily about physical healing, but emotional. And I want to end with this. And St. Francis, the day before he gives up everything, he is riding on a horse, and he approaches this leper. And the lepers always had totally repulsed him, but for something moved him, and he got off of his horse, and he embraced this leper, and he kissed him. This man that hasn't been touched and hasn't been embraced and that's what he did. He embraced and he kissed it. And the call to this, if you're looking beyond our minds, is that's what we have to do with ourselves and our most fearful, scared part of ourselves, to get off our high horse of what our culture says, be perfect, be brave, be strong, and to realize that real strength and real bravery is getting off of that high horse and hugging the parts of ourselves that are longing to be hugged, as opposed to being punched and kicked and pushed, but to be hugged and to be embraced. Even the parts that we struggle with, and realize that connecting to each other through our struggles and sharing our stories, then when that actually happens, that pure connection that we're made for, you can't hate each other. You just can't. There's always that boundless compassion, and then you're introduced to that God that doesn't separate, but only unites and only connects. And then we pass God's peace to each other, my God, and then everything else. Grace and peace, my friends.